The sea with no shoreline. There's a sea in the Atlantic that has no shores. It's about 2 million square miles. That's roughly the size of Australia. The Sargasso Sea is defined by currents, not coasts. It's trapped within a system known as the North Atlantic Gyre. These currents act like invisible walls. They keep the Sargasso separate from the surrounding ocean. Despite its vast expanse, it's relatively shallow. The average depth is 5,000 feet. One of the sea's nicknames is horse latitudes. Sailors of old feared getting stuck here. With no wind to fill their sails, ships could be becalmed for weeks. Legend has it that some crews had to throw horses overboard to save water, hence the grim name. But what makes this sea truly special is its namesake, the Sargassum seaweed. This brownish-yellow plant blankets the surface. It creates a floating forest that stretches for miles. The seaweed can grow up to 33 feet long. At first glance, you might think this sea is lifeless. You'd be wrong. The Sargasso is called the golden floating rainforest of the ocean. The seaweed provides a habitat for countless marine species. It's home to over 100 species of fish. Baby sea turtles hide here during their lost years. After hatching on beaches, they disappear for years. Scientists call this time the lost years. They can last up to a decade or more. During this time, the turtles grow bigger and stronger. Only about 1% of these babies survive to adulthood. Tiny seahorses cling to the fronds of Sargasso. Even whales pass through on their migrations. Perhaps the most fascinating story is that of the eels. For centuries, no one knew where European and American eels came from. The mystery was finally solved in the Sargasso Sea. Scientists discovered that both species travel thousands of miles to breed here. Their leaf-shaped larvae then ride the currents back. They return to their respective continents. The Sargasso Sea has long captured the human imagination. Christopher Columbus wrote about it in his diaries. His sailors feared the seaweed would entangle their ships. They thought it might drag them to the ocean floor, but that's just a myth. Speaking of mysteries, part of the Bermuda Triangle lies within the Sargasso Sea. There's no evidence of supernatural activity. However, the area's calm winds could have stranded many ships in the past. This likely fueled stories of ghost ships. One such tale comes from 1840. A fully stocked ship was found drifting in the Sargasso. It was completely abandoned. There was no sign of the crew. The cabins were still elegantly furnished. Half-eaten meals were on the tables. What happened to the people aboard? It's a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. Bermuda is the only land within the Sargasso Sea. Here's a surprising fact. The Sargasso is relatively nutrient-poor, yet it supports an incredibly diverse ecosystem. Scientists are still trying to understand this paradox. The seaweed itself might be the key. It could be recycling nutrients in unique ways.